Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to this press event. Welcome to this press event for the U.S. bipartisan congressional delegation led by Chairman Michael McCaul of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. In the beginning, allow me to introduce our distinguished guest, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Lin Jialong, Lin 部长. Chairman Michael McCaul, Congressman Jimmy Panetta, Congresswoman Young Kim, Chair of the Indo-Pacific Subcommittee, Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan, Congressman Joe Wilson, Congressman Andy Barr, the co-chair of the Congressional Taiwan Caucus. First, I would like to invite Minister Lin to address the audience.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome the bipartisan delegation appointed by House Speaker Mike Johnson to Taiwan. This delegation is led by Chairman Michael McCaul of the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee. Along with the committee are members of the House, including Congressman Jimmy Panetta, and also Congresswoman Jin Ying-yu, very familiar friends, Young Kim, who is the chair of the Indo-Pacific Subcommittee. Members include Congresswoman Chrissy Houlihan and Congressman Joe Wilson and Congressman Andy Barr, who is also a co-chair of Congressional Taiwan Caucus. First of all, I want to thank Speaker Johnson for sending this esteemed delegation to Taiwan to congratulate President Lai on his inauguration with the people of Taiwan in celebrating this important moment and another milestone in Taiwan's democracy. Chairman McCaul and members of his delegations are very important and staunch supporters of Taiwan in the U.S. Congress. Under his strong leadership, the Foreign Affairs Committee has passed legislation after legislations that helps advance the Taiwan-U.S. relationship and strengthen Taiwan's self-defense capabilities for us to safeguard Taiwan's democracy and freedom. And thank you, Chairman McCaul. Your visit today could not be timelier. This year marked the 45th anniversary of Taiwan Reaction Act. And also, you are the very first congressional delegation I received after assuming the office as the foreign minister. And more importantly, just a few days ago, the PRC conducted 2 days military drills in the Taiwan Strait and around Taiwan, simply to express their displeasure with President Lai, a president democratically elected by the people of Taiwan. I believe the military exercise was also the PRC's way of welcoming this delegation. And your visit in this critical time is a powerful gesture. It's a powerful display of the strong bipartisan support of Taiwan in the United States. It's also an important gesture of solidarity that shows America stands firmly with democratic Taiwan. And for this, we are deeply grateful. Moving forward, we are eager to work with the U.S. Congress to continue to strengthen cooperation between Taiwan and the United States and to advance our rock-solid partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
It's your turn. Thank you.
Please be seated.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Foreign Minister. And you've been a dear friend to me over the years. And to see President Lai in this new position, just on a personal level, brings so much joy to me. And on behalf of Speaker Johnson, we want to extend his thanks and his praise for the inauguration, once again showing democracy can prevail. On behalf of the delegation, bipartisan, both Republican and Democrat, we stand together as Americans first and foremost in support of Taiwan. It's been mentioned earlier today in our country is Memorial Day. It's a day we remember those who served. And I can't help but think about my own father and Joe Wilson's father, who served in what we call the greatest generation, who fought at the ultimate time of peril in World War II, when both Europe and the Pacific was under fire from dictators, aggressive ones, trying to take over the world. And fast forward to today, and there are so many parallels between then and the events that we see today. Deterrence is key. We've been talking about Reagan's quote, peace through strength. We have to provide that deterrence here. As you mentioned, a year ago when I was here, I'm starting to think it's me they don't like, but I know the inauguration, they did the same thing a year ago with a not so warm reception. And more than anything, I see it as a intimidation tactic to punish democracy, because they don't like democracy. And I know Chairman Xi would often tell President Tsai that, democracy doesn't work. Democracy is dysfunctional. Democracy is broken. I can make a decision like that, and you can't. The only problem is in his governance, there is no freedom. There is no democracy. And the people have no power whatsoever. And they're subjugated to his authority. And that is the difference between the CCP and Taiwan. And we need to provide all defense articles as instructed by the Defense or the Taiwan Relations Act. In 1979, this is a 45th anniversary. Ms. Houlihan said that she and her father were here in 1979. His father was helping negotiate that important historic document, and I know how you must feel being here today. We will live by that, and we will support you. And we did in our emergency supplemental bill to the tune of $2 billion for foreign military financing to Taiwan, $4 billion total to the Pacific region, and also presidential drawdown authority. And we will get the weapons you purchased to you as soon as possible. But at the end of the day, I'd just like to think about peace and prosperity. You don't have peace and prosperity without strength and deterrence. Without strength, it invites aggression, conflict, and war. We've seen it in history over and over again. We want to provide you, working together, that deterrence. And we also want to provide you that prosperity and peace. Think about, in the 40s, making transistor radios, and now this beautiful island is the leader in semiconductor technology. 90% of the global manufacturing occurs right here in Taiwan, and 60% of the international trade goes through the Taiwan Strait. So when people ask me in the United States, why is Taiwan important? It's the people. It's democracy. It's freedom. It's a prosperity. It's what you bring in science and technology and innovation. And it's because the people of Taiwan are just like the people of the United States. And so that, sir, I just want to thank you for having us. I know at this point in time we're going to open it to questions, and I want the members to participate as well.
Thank you, Chairman, for your inspiring words. Now I would like to open the floor to questions. So if you have questions, raise your hand, and before you ask, tell everybody your name and the medium you belong to. And Ben.
Thank you, Chairman McCall. I'm Ben Blanchard, the Reuters bureau chief in Taiwan. When you were here almost this time last year, you were talking about the need to get Taiwan the weapons that it has ordered, and you just mentioned it just now. Is there still a problem with getting Taiwan the weapons that it has ordered? What more can you do to help speed up these purchases? I mean, having seen the war games that China conducted last week, presumably there is much more urgency to make sure that that happens.
It's a great question. It's one that I continue to talk to the Secretary of State about, the Secretary of Defense. We talked to AIT about this, and we are moving forward on those weapon systems. I'd like to see them faster, but they are forthcoming. And I think the $4 billion, in foreign military financing is a huge investment, but a sign of showing of support to Taiwan. We believe that package will move far more quickly than the foreign military sale package for several reasons. And so I think, if anything, what just happened occurred this week on behalf of the armada of ships and airplanes. It sends a very strong message to the United States that myself and all these members will take back with us to the United States Congress and to the Speaker and to the President, of the United States, and the urgency. And I will say, President Lai and I, as always, had a very sobering and yet very direct conversation about the threat that this island faces from its neighbor to the north, and it's a real one. And without deterrence, Chairman Xi has bold and aggressive ambitions, and we just need to do everything we can to make it possible for him to see that the risk outweighs the reward, that the risk is just too high. And what value would it be to invade, just to take over a suppressed people where you've destroyed everything? Like anybody wants that result, and I do think the deterrence we will provide, and that we're providing by our presence here today, will help prevent that. And hopefully he'll understand it too, that it's just simply not worth it. Let's live by the accords of the Taiwan Relations Act, and let's live in peace. And if any of the other members would like to comment on that, I'd be happy to. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And Yaru in the back.
I'm Charlotte Young from Liberty Times. Excuse me. Building on Ben's question, they are concerned over if the arms will still be a good fit for Taiwan, consider Taiwan's situation constantly changes. Will there be any calibration over the issue, or what's the response from U.S. over the concerns? Thank you.
Without getting into too much specifics or the other, I would say that the focus has to be maritime assets. If what they did the last couple of days was essentially a preview of what a blockade would look like, and it actually gave us some warning indications about what that would look like in terms of a response by Taiwan and or possibly the United States. So that looking at what they did, what type of military assets would most likely deter and stop that? My view is the maritime assets are key here, because if you can prevent them getting to the land, then you've shut down this thing. I mean, it could happen so fast that just having land assets are not going to prevent that, and then you're in a guerrilla warfare situation in the mountains. I think the key is to stop them from getting on the island first, but it would be a very intense couple of days, and I think the key is to make sure that the island has the weapons necessary for deterrence, so that she's looking at that military calculation. It doesn't look very good to him. And that's why, again, the Harpoons, anti-ship submarines. We have AUKUS now with the UK, the United States, and Australia, working together on nuclear submarines and other technologies, AI, quantum, to help countering the influence of China. We also have the Quad that involves India to help counter the malign influence of China. And we have greater cooperation between our our government in terms of the help. Under the Taiwan Relations Act, we can provide them with the advice and the strategies and the training so that they are, Taiwan is prepared.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Ryan Nobles from NBC News.
Hey.
There seems to be a growing debate, especially in your party, but in the Congress in general, about isolationism, the role of foreign aid by the United States. It's become a big issue in the presidential campaign as well. Was that something that President Lai brought up as a concern? And what would your message be to your colleagues trending in that direction after a visit like this?
Well, as I mentioned in our debate on the floor for the emergency supplemental, isolation, I believe, is dangerous. I believe we, after World War II, are a leader of the free world, a leader of NATO. We cannot shrink from that responsibility. And yes, the rest of the world has to step it up as well in their own defense. However, the question I posed to my members before they voted was, are you a Churchill or are you a Chamberlain? And I look at the history and the parallels between the late 30s and what I saw in Poland when the Ukrainians were pouring out into Poland, mothers and daughters, and they would tell me in Poland, this is just like 1939, when Hitler invaded. And then we had a threat to the Pacific. Churchill, and I met with his grandson 2 days ago, talked about in The Gathering Storm, the axis of evil. And in it, he talks to Roosevelt about what do we call this war? And Churchill says it's the unnecessary war because it didn't have to happen. It could have been prevented. We are at that same point in history right now. A war doesn't have to happen here, and it's unnecessary. But we need to do everything in our power to prevent that from happening. So I would just have my colleagues, study history. And you don't want history to repeat itself. And we can learn, a great deal, I think, from history. And I don't know, does any other, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andy Barr from Kentucky, and as the Republican co-chair of the Taiwan caucus in Congress, there should be no doubt, there should be no skepticism in the United States, Taiwan, or anywhere in the world of American resolve to maintain the status quo and peace in the Taiwan Strait. The United States is fully and completely committed to deterrence, to supporting Taiwan militarily, diplomatically, and economically. We agree with President Lai that peace and stability and the strength is indispensable for global security and prosperity. And we were here today, and we are here this week, not just to congratulate a new administration and president and the new president and vice president for an election victory. We are here to celebrate a victory for democracy, and we stand in bipartisan unity in support of that freedom and democracy.
Thank you. Mark, in the back.
Hi, this is Mark from United Daily. My question is being, if the military situation escalates on the Taiwan Strait, would you recommend to maybe the U.S. government to incorporate Taiwan, as you mentioned, Quad and AUKUS, such organization, in order to level up the Taiwan's strategic status? And also, you have mentioned, I think it was due in March, that you said you will come visit on the 20th. Now it's the 26th, 27th. I don't know what has affected your schedule. Thank you.
Right. Well, and let me echo Andy Barr. The resoluteness which the United States Congress has behind Taiwan is extremely strong. And even though there are debates about other theaters of war, the Pacific theater, I can tell you there was no division or dissension when it came to Taiwan in the Congress. And, is it going to escalate? I would say it's escalated over the last couple of years. I don't think we've seen this threat coming from them to really in a response to a fair and free democratic election. And we know that they are building up their weapon systems. They're advancing. We are looking at export controls and everything from semiconductors to AI. as they advance into AI warfare systems. And it's a great power competition. And Taiwan is in it. And Taiwan is leading it in many respects with the technology that it performs and creates. And so that's why we're with Taiwan in this. I hope it doesn't escalate, but I think Chairman Xi has made it clear that he envisions himself almost as a Chairman Mao type that wants to restore the imperial China and is intent on the South China Sea. And perhaps it's a legacy issue, but again, I think from our perspective, that $4 billion and getting all the other weapons in are going to send a wake-up call, and I think delegations like this speaking in support, and from other countries. The Quad, the thing that is, of course, we can't call her an ambassador, although she is, and I get, they sent me a warning: do not visit Taiwan because you're in violation of the One China policy, because they don't recognize the president's status. And I say to them, they're in violation of the One China policy. But we do have to be careful with certain red lines that we know the PRC has, not to cross those lines, because that would end up in a catastrophic war. And so we have to be very careful with our diplomacy not to cross those red lines. Yes, under the Taiwan Relations Act, we can provide as much as defense articles as we possibly can. And we can work with and train the Taiwanese. And if, God forbid, it got to that point where the American people would have to make a very tough decision if the island was unprovoked, in an unprovoked manner was invaded, then it would be to the American people and the United States Congress and my committee that has the power to declare war how to deal with that. But my job right now is to make sure we do everything we can to make sure we never end up in that situation, and to make sure the deterrence is here to stop that from ever happening, and then also to make sure there's great economic vibrancy. That's why we're talking about a tax treaty with Taiwan and a trade treaty with Taiwan, all of which will strengthen Taiwan.
Thank you. Wall Street Journal.
Hi, this is Joe Yu Wang with the Wall Street Journal, and thanks for having us here. My questions would be on, the upcoming election in the U.S. later this year. I'm just wondering if this is something, between, your conversations with President Nye, and I guess one of the scenario would be a possible or potential Trump elections. And I'm just wondering if you have any advices for President Nye, to work with the United States under that scenario. Thank you.
What's the last part of that? President Nye really understands it, and he understands the importance of our relationship. And we were making it very clear to all of you today that the United States strongly stands with Taiwan. And regardless of which candidate wins the presidential, I do not see that support wavering whatsoever. The current president, I think, just came out with a very strong statement I just read, once again, that he supports the defense of Taiwan, in his words. And I know that, President Trump, I've dealt with Mike Pompeo quite a bit. He and I worked on a lot of things together, and I don't have enough time to talk about them all, but a lot of it had to do with right here, protecting Taiwan. And so either way, I think it's important for the people of Taiwan to know that election will not impact the American people's resolve and support.
Thank you. Maybe the last one. The last one.
We got two right here.
Thank you. Chris Buckley from the New York Times.
Hey.
Just to return back to that question of the backlog of undelivered arms sales to Taiwan. Now, by some estimates, that backlog is now approaching $20 billion, and the supplemental funding that's come through may make a marginal difference, but there seems to be a lot on both sides that's holding back faster deliveries. I wonder if you could give us your diagnosis about what needs to be done on both sides to make these deliveries come through faster, both on the Taiwanese and US sides. And what ideally should we see happening in that space in the next few years? Is it simply a problem of the United States' limited military-industrial base at this point?
I do think part of it's a defense industrial base issue that has been highlighted to my attention ever since I've become chairman. When I sign off on weapons, we have to wait a period of 2 to 5 years for them to go into country, and I think that is way too long. And in the case of Taiwan, it's way too long. Some of these weapon systems go back to 2020, so it'd be 4 years ago. Now, I put a continuous pressure on the defense contractors and the administration and the Department of State and Defense to get these defense articles out as quickly as possible. As opposed to Ukraine, I get a lot of questions about that. That's mostly a land war. This is primarily a maritime battle. Taiwan, unlike Ukraine, will be getting new weapon systems, not old ones, and especially old Russian weapons. It will be a new stock that would be supplied to Taiwan. Some of our latest technologies, by the way. And I think the majority of that package being held up, most of that are the F-16s. And as I understand it, there's a software issue. And I think, quite honestly, sir, the power of the press informing the American people about this story helps. Helps my job to put pressure on the administration to get these weapons in, because when you come here and you see, again, the armada of ships and planes surrounding this island, you see a very dangerous situation, and that's why deterrence is so important. I know every member here will take that message back, and I will again reiterate with the Secretary of State. I mentioned it to him at the hearing, the other day. But the other thing is not projecting weakness. Projecting strength always prevails, and it stops war, and not to micromanage situations that often, sometimes in Ukraine, I think we've micromanaged it to the point, especially right now, they're on the border of Ukraine and Russia, and we can't even hit them. Ukrainians can't even fire back. Now, I think we'll get that one fixed. But I think it's important that everybody knows what the rules of the game are, but not to impede it. I do think with Hong Kong and Afghanistan and now Ukraine, I can understand the sort of reservations. And I have them too, and that's why I really dedicate a lot of my time on this to make sure Taiwan is best prepared and has the deterrence necessary.
Due to time restraint, I might have to conclude this session. So before we end, I would like to invite Minister Lin to join the delegation for a photo group photo. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And let me thank the delegation once again for traveling from afar to be with us. Thank you for your support. Thank you, everyone, for attending this event. I wish everyone a good day. Thank you.